Very, very honorable and privileged announcement to make, and it's an introduction of someone who I've known for many years. That person is Matt Gonzalez. And Matt Gonzalez, let me read his bio. Yes, let's give him an applause to start out. Many of us know Matt's great work over the years. Matt Gonzalez is the chief attorney in the San Francisco Public Defender's Office. He previously served as president of the San Francisco Board of Supervisors while a member of the Green Party. And while in office, he was the main sponsor of measures that created the highest minimum wage in the country and which instituted ranked choice voting for local elections in San Francisco. Although let me make sure I'm following myself here. Although his campaign for mayor in 2003 fell short of victory against now Governor Gavin Newsom, he is credited with defending progressive values and mobilizing voters disenchanted with politics. In 2005, he co-founded a civil rights law firm, Gonzalez and Lay LLP, and was trial counsel in a case that won a punitive damages verdict in federal court. I'm sorry, I have to get one more paper. This is my first, I pitched, because Adriel couldn't make it, I had to step in here as an MC, so excuse me.
We've heard enough.
Oh, okay. So I will just say he won a punitive damages verdict in federal court against an elected district attorney who was abusing his powers. And we also know he served as Ralph Nader's vice president in the 2008 presidential election. So I think that gives us a little bit of an understanding of this great next speaker, Matt Gonzalez.
Thank you. Thank you, Gail. So it's a real delight to be here. And I was reflecting on the fact, as I heard the speakers, that I entered politics 2 decades ago as a candidate for district attorney in San Francisco. And I was working in the public defender office. I had no leadership position in the office. I had never even supervised anybody other than an intern. And I decided to run for the top law enforcement position in San Francisco. And at the time, I articulated a position against the death penalty, in favor of prosecuting police officers who committed crimes. I wanted to go after landlords and pretextual evictions and all kinds of things. And 20 years ago, there were Democratic parties that when I went to speak to them, they basically laughed at me because I thought that it was okay to be against the death penalty or support gay marriage or whatever progressive ideals that we now take for granted, that you cannot be a legitimate candidate even within the Democratic Party and believe that you're going to have a progressive base without supporting those ideals. I ran for Board of Supervisors the following year in district elections. Districts in San Francisco have about 80,000 people. As you heard, I worked on things like the minimum wage, like ranked choice voting. Also worked on community land trust, worked on talking about a municipal bank. And when I ran for mayor in 2003, again, the newspapers made fun of me because I thought San Francisco could have its own municipal bank, and because I thought we could harness tidal energy as part of a plan to take over the power grid in San Francisco. So much has changed. The context is so different as we get together now and try to sort things out. As a president of the Board of Supervisors, I supported a member of the Communist Party running for treasurer who also shared my views on a municipal bank against a Democratic incumbent. Now, he was not elected, unfortunately, and I was told numerous times that I would pay a political price for that kind of endorsement decision. One of my takeaways from my time as a candidate holding office is it's actually not that hard to make political change. Gail did it in Richmond. Mike Feinstein, who's in the back, the mayor of Santa Monica for many years, did it there. And there's one fundamental thing that you have to adhere to, which is you cannot care whether or not you're out of office.
Yeah.
That's it. That's the only rule your candidate has to believe in. Because if you're not scared, then you can make good decisions. And the only decisions the only decisions I regret turn out to be the ones that I made because I didn't have good information. It's not because I was scared of a developer who was going to spend money against me and things like that. So in reflecting on being here, the big question is, why are we here? And I think that for me, answering the question, aside from Gail asking me, I still remember the Richmond Progressive Alliance meeting in January of 2004, getting a call, I think, from Peter Camejo saying, hey, Gail's doing this thing over in Richmond, we got to go. But, people are suffering, right? The inequality, the wealth inequality is widening. We have, hundreds of thousands of people in prisons. We have job opportunities, low-paying work is out there, but not real job opportunities, and certainly not educational opportunities. And so as we try to find our way into a path of success, the question is, how is this organization going to be different than any other organization? How are we going to inspire people that have given up on politics, or people that just don't believe in politics anymore, to care about it? I've been excited to see some of the efforts by folks in this room, the DSA and others, who have gotten people believing that there can be change within the Democratic Party and elsewhere. I come out of the Peter Camejo camp that was opposed to fusion, but our effort in the Green Party hasn't exactly made it. We haven't won the fight, so I now welcome any possibility at any change, and I hope that we can do it in a coalition. In order to make people believe in what we can do, though, we have to have victories. We have to show people that we can change their lives. We can improve their quality of life. We can pay them more money for the work they do. And one of the ways to do that is we have to support local efforts at change. And here's something that a lot of folks don't realize. When you think about so many of the cities in California, to win a city council race in these cities, often you can do it with less than $10,000. Doesn't take a lot of money to do it. And so if an organization can raise a couple of $1,000s to help, you're in effect raising 20% of the effort, and that can be the difference on whether or not a piece of mail goes out, or you're printing sufficient, content-based information for why people should believe in somebody. So we have to think about, a lot of times people don't give money because they don't have hundreds of dollars to give, but a little bit of money from a lot of people can go a long way. I also think, and I had kicked this around when I was in government and regret not having accomplished this, we started beta testing this thing called, I think it was called something like good legislation. The idea that there would be a Wikipedia bank or a depository of good ideas, good pieces of legislation that had already been written and used in other jurisdictions, not just California, even in other parts of the country, so that when some city council person in perhaps a smaller city that doesn't have the staff resources to do all the research and write the law, or maybe is confronted by city attorneys that don't want to be supportive, you can sit down and say, well, here are 3 minimum wage laws. Here's San Francisco's, here's the one in this other city, here's and not start at the 20-yard line, right? You get to start on your opponent's 30 or 40-yard line. You still got a lot of work to do, but that's something that shouldn't be too hard to do. And when you find that piece of legislation on certain things like, do you have a cost of living adjustment on your minimum wage measure? Do you apply to businesses with less than 5 employees or not? What are some of the considerations and some of the obstacles that you're going to have? I want to talk about the importance of going after the foundation of the system, right? If the system isn't working, we've got to change the rules so that it works. In San Francisco, I'll give you a little example. We had, in effect, a mayoral power that appointed the commissioners, and then to reject a commission appointment, you had to get a supermajority of the Board of Supervisors, so 8 out of 11 board members to reject someone. We rejected a commission appointee, and the city attorney, Ted Lakey at the time, came to me and he said, Matt, I've been doing this 25 years. That's the first time an appointment has been rejected. And it was a fellow who had been a juvenile probation commissioner, was being appointed to the Public Utilities Commission, had no experience whatsoever. We took the fundamental idea of the mayor getting all the appointments, and we said, well, we'll give you a majority of the appointments, but the others will go to the Board of Supervisors, and all of them have to be approved by a majority of the Board of Supervisors. So you have to get 6 affirmative votes instead of 8 against. This little change has resulted in all kinds of commissioners being rejected in the last 10, 15 years. Tiny, simple, not that big of a deal. And we have to look at things like that on a statewide level. A lot of people are talking about, the Supreme Court, lifetime appointments. That doesn't make sense. In California, let's put term limits on our judicial officers. Let's, and there are all kinds of things. Why are judges allowed, they don't endorse in any political contest, but they're allowed to endorse when one another, each of them run for a judicial post? Why? Why do we allow that? Let's go after these things. My time is up, so let me just end by saying, these efforts that happen in a lot of cities around, what this organization can do is, when those efforts are happening in cities around California, we can be the eyes and ears that help us understand what's happening somewhere and when it's worthwhile to really get in there and try to lend support. Writing opinion editorials, posting on social media. We should be the bots for our own progressive efforts in these little places, because no city in California is little. When you make changes in a city of under 50,000 people, under 25,000 people, the rest of the state takes notice. So thank you, Gail, for your effort. Thank you.